Good evening and welcome back to Prime of Midlife. It's Tuesday evening and yes, I had put a video up this morning, but it was a bit of a rant and dirty washing in public and all that. So I decided I'll take that down and I will give you a calmer version of what I meant. And as I say, it's make sure you've got your paperwork in order. And I know I keep going on about this, but it's because stuff keeps happening to me. Um, the As you know, my parents both went into care. My mum is still in care. My father we lost a couple of years ago. Now, when that happened, the initial sort of catalyst was Dad was ill. He had to go into hospital. Now, thankfully, my parents had put a POA, as in power of attorney, in place a couple of years before that. Basically, because someone else they knew did not have a power of attorney and it caused their family huge problems trying to get anything done that was against what the doctors, the council or whatever wanted done. So my mum and dad both put power of attorney. They put each other as power of attorney first, with myself as the secondary. And when Dad first became ill, it was then that's really when it first kicked in, because Mum was no fit state to be doing anything. So I dealt with everything. And because I dealt with everyone, I had to give the power of attorney document to the doctors, to the hospitals. And then when he moved to a care home, they had to have the power of attorney, because otherwise it was a case of they would have gone to Mum, who was about as much use a chocolate fire guard in the situation, or it would have been that the council would have taken over Dad's everything. So the power of attorney meant that I could deal with Dad. I could choose which care home he went into. I could choose stupid things like, I could go and buy his clothes. Get him stuff that I knew he liked. Otherwise, it would have been the care home, because the council would just have told them go and get him clothes, etc., etc. So it comes down to really silly things. So that was when the power of attorney first kicked in. Then, as Mum deteriorated, things like her big thing was she wanted to be with people. And our initial thought was, instead of being in the house out in the country, we would see if we could get her into sheltered housing. And I did that as power of attorney because I had to fill in the forms. Mum wasn't capable of filling in the forms. I mean, she possibly could have if she'd sat down and got herself sorted, but she was so stressed by that time that, it had taken so long it wouldn't have been worth it. Deadlines were not her strong point by that time. So I had power of attorney. We signed for the flat and everything, and then she was like, "No, I don't want to go." And the social worker agreed that probably she needed a bit more support than that. So that was when Mum went into the care home. Again, my choice of care home. I helped her pack, etc. Lots and lots of things that the decision was made by me because I knew that's what Mum or Dad would have preferred. So if you imagine the situation, then that's me now with two parents in a care home. And because they're both in the care home, we have to sell their house to pay the care home fees. So we sold the house. And as the money from the house has been spent paying the care home fees, as it's got to Mum's, what's called the limit that she's allowed to keep herself. So I think at the moment here in Scotland it's £35,000 before they start taking money off of you. And then it goes down to like at £21,000 they won't take anything off you, I think is the numbers just now, but certainly something to look at. But as you get down to that, or as we did, then I contacted the council and went, look, Mum's not going to have any money left soon, so what do I do? Because I know then the council takes over payments. The home has told me they're all ready for that. And the council do a financial assessment, and that's what they're doing at the moment. And the financial assessment entails going through the bank statements for what's been spent in the, basically since they went into care. And if they don't like the way you've been spending the money as power of attorney, then they can put you to the deprivation of assets team, which is what's happening to me, because I bought Kathleen a car. I put some money aside to pay my mortgage. That's because my mum said when I told her we had to sell the house, she's like, well, pay off your mortgage first. You're not allowed to do that. Much as my mother was adamant that the whole reason for them having that house, they wanted Kathleen and I to inherit it so that we would have a roof over our head, so that we wouldn't have to be paying rent or whatever for years. That doesn't matter. You are not allowed to take that kind of money from them, because that's a deliberate deprivation of assets. And depending on what they look at, it can be up to 7 years before the council have to start paying for care that they can look back at. Now, this didn't happen to me 7 years before. Mum and dad were in charge of their own money 7 years before. But for some people who haven't got the power of attorney or whatever, it could be simple things like, as I said, if you buy your kids a car. And for some people who've got a decent amount of money, they'll be like, well, I don't want to get stung. I don't want you to get stung with inheritance tax. So what we'll do is we'll take it down below the threshold before I die. It's not even just going into care. It can be when someone dies. If they think that this person had, say, 500,000 in the bank, and all of a sudden they're down at 200,000 a year later, when they've been diagnosed with something terminal, say, the government was expecting inheritance tax on that £500,000, and now it's suddenly 200,000. And if you did that within the last 7 years before the person passes, then you can be done for deprivation of assets. In saying that, I am not a lawyer, and this information is very, very basic. It may not even be 100% correct, but it's roughly the sort of thing that you need to be careful of as you get older. So for me, I am going to, as soon as I sort this stuff out with Mum, I am going to go and put power of attorney in Kathleen's name, because nobody knows what I like better than Kathleen. So she shall have power of attorney. The house is already in both our names here, so there's nothing can be done with that. We knew that when we got the mortgage this time. We put it in both our names, so that we don't have to do that. We don't have to deal with that. So yeah, if you're in a similar situation to mine, because although this house is not anywhere near the inheritance tax threshold, Mum and Dad's was way over it. I mean, we have paid hundreds of thousands of pounds in care home fees. So yeah, that's what I mean by get your paperwork in order. And not just for care home fees, for inheritance tax, for anything like that. Get yourself a lawyer. Do not just take my word for it. As I say, I do not have all the information. I just know what I have read through the last few years having to deal with Mum and Dad's affairs. So yeah, get yourself sorted. And then you won't end up in the state I was in this morning going, that's not a good thing. So now I am going to go and have myself a cup of tea and wait for Kathleen and the puppy to come in, because they're out tramping the hills somewhere. So I'll go and put fresh water in the puppy's bowl and I will catch you later.